I don't need to explain how ridiculous this is. Look at this. Sages and stuff like that, and I'm dead. Forgot I didn't have that define file. Hello and welcome to another gameplay video. I'm the host JonNario, and today I will be talking about the spin to win on the Candy Barbarian. Yes, some of those other recordings that you actually did see back then, those recordings were actually going to be like my first actual recording on the spin to win, but I actually did scrap it and just made it as a first reaction to the intro, so I can actually just keep moving on through what it is right now. I actually did another recording, but I also did scrap it because I did forget about some very important details. This time around I will just, instead of just going and gushing over how good this ability is, because it's really good, I'm just going to put it out there. Yeah, it is really good. Like, I would highly recommend it. That's all I gotta say. But for those who want more explanation on how good it is, then you can just stick around and just enjoy the video. Anyway, so I'm going to be talking about spin to win, one of the 3 ability modifiers with the Candy Barbarian, and this, in my opinion, is the better out of all 3 of them. And spin to win, what it does is it reduces the energy cost of Swirlwind and increases movement speed when used. By the way, if you have noticed that I'm talking a little bit on tone, lower tone, actually I'm recovering from somewhat of a fever because I did get vaccinated. So yeah, I was actually feeling the effect until very recently. I still got a mild headache, but that's not that big of a deal. But either way, if I'm talking a little bit of a lower tone of voice, that's just because why. But yeah, spin to win is going to be essentially what it says right here. It is going to be an improvement to the vanilla Swirlwind, so just going to be explaining how does vanilla Swirlwind work, and then I'm going to be showcasing all of the changes. So let me just unequip the ring. So vanilla Swirlwind is going to be your first ability. It's going to be your main spammable on the Candy Barbarian. It is going to be a 6.5 times damage multiplier ability that has no cooldown. It has around a 3 to 4 block range. It hits all enemies around you, and it lowers your movement speed by 60% regularly. As you can see right here, if I'm running and I activate vanilla Swirlwind, and you can just see that my movement speed is generally just killed. As well, the energy cost is 60, which is high costing for an ability that has no cooldown, so it means that you can easily just, get rid of all of your energy. Just even with energy regeneration weapon like I'm using right here, you can easily just get rid of all of your energy, so do keep that in mind. So right now with spin to win, it actually does changes in both the movement speed and the energy cost. So everything else regarding this ability remains the same. It has the same knockback, same damage, it has all of the same properties. It also heals you as well whenever you do hit an enemy, which is very nice. It does help out greatly in survivability, especially on something like Curse Skull. You can actually just use this, and for each of the enemy that you do hit, you are going to heal up 10% of your HP, which is quite a lot. But yes, a thing that you are going to notice right over here is going to be that the vanilla Swirlwind is going to kill your movement speed upon activation, which is, not necessarily a good thing. It actually doesn't help out in momentum. You can actually just use it perfectly with momentum building, which you can just jump around and just activate the ability, as you're going to see right here. You can generally just make it work, but it generally doesn't work just perfectly, because obviously if you're jumping around, you're not generating any energy, and like I just mentioned again, this ability takes a lot of energy upon activation. So here I go, I'm going to equate spin to win. So spin to win, what it does is going to be that it reduces both your energy cost upon activation of the vanilla Swirlwind, and also it will increase your movement speed upon activation instead of decreasing it. So obviously, like you just saw a little bit before, you actually did notice that the movement speed actually got killed whenever you activate vanilla Swirlwind, and the energy cost was 60. As you can tell right around here, obviously keep in mind that I do have energy regeneration ring, so I'm just going to jump around so I don't recover energy. But as you are going to see right over here, that the energy cost is much less. Like, look at that difference. Let me just unequip it once again so you can actually just see the difference. And if I jump around right here, I take almost half of my energy upon activation. The energy cost gets reduced by half. Instead of just being 60 energy cost upon activation, it's going to be 30, which is from really high to definitely low in terms of the energy cost. So to keep that a little bit in mind, so let me just do a little bit of a comparison. Let's just go with the night. It's a little bit laggy, but But yeah, with the Night Spirit Square, you can actually just see that this Night Spirit Square is a very small amount. And the Night Spirit Square is going to be, if I do recall correctly, 25 energy upon activation. This one is very close to the Night Spirit Square, in that it is going to be 30, and instead of, you know, the regular 25. And as you can see right around here, it no longer kills your movement speed upon activation. Unfortunately, I'm not able to just go ahead and show you the movement speed right around here, because the movement speed increase that you do get whenever activate this ability is going to be during the whole animation. I cannot do it fast enough. You can do it on PC. You can activate, you can have the character sheet on your screen and activate this ability, and you can clearly see the movement speed increase. And the movement speed increase on Spin to Win is going to be plus 50%, from minus 60% to plus 50%, and which is very ridiculous to think about, because a plus 50% movement speed increase is a lot. It's the same movement speed increase that you do see with something like the Neon Ninja. The Neon Ninja's Shadow Flip movement speed buff is 50%. This one is also 50%, and to top it all off, like I just mentioned, less energy cost, so half of the energy cost on this ability. You can clearly see that some of the biggest weakness of this ability is obviously going to get completely removed with this ability. Does it make it the perfect ability? I would say no. I wouldn't put it in the same realm as something like Overcharge with the Knight, because despite, you know, technically just being better on paper, and that's just because they still has some of the other problems with Vanilla Whirlwind. It still is a 6.5 times damage multiplier ability. It is still going to be an ability that hits all enemies around you. It's still going to be an ability that is going to be essentially instant cast. It is not instant cast like Spirit Square, but it's such a fast animation. But the range is, you know, not the best, but it's not that big of a deal. But here's going to be some of the problems. Number one, this ability modifier, you have to be on the ground to actually just properly utilize it, because this ability movement speed increase is only going to be tied to the whole animation. So if you're jumping around with the whole animation, it means that you only are capable of doing 5, and that's about it. Just 5 if you actually want to increase all the movement speed, and especially if you're just speed farming through dungeons, you're going to be able to complete a dungeon. Let's just complete this dungeon right around here. And if I actually do complete this dungeon, you're going to see that if I try to go into dungeons really high up in the air, like let's just say for example that dungeon right over here, so you have to just go ahead and just keep jumping around, and by the time that you do reach the dungeon, you have no energy and you have to wait for energy so you can one shot, and then you can just move on, and you're going to definitely notice it. So that's why like something like energy regeneration on both ring and weapon is mandatory with this ability. If you don't have energy regeneration on both of them, you are going to definitely notice that this is going to be a problem, especially if you want to fully utilize the movement speed. Yeah, this is going to be a thing that you're going to notice. But if you can actually just you know, being able to control your energy and not being able to just over spam the ability, or well, technically you have to spam it if you want the movement speed, but if you can just control your energy, or if you use something like Cell's Emblem, who knows, then this ability is absolutely bonkers on how good it is, because a plus 50% movement speed buff on an ability like this one, you are clearly going to see my god, that is so stupid. Really great. But yet, all of the other problems regarding Vanilla Whirlwind are still going to be remaining the same. It still does knockback, it doesn't have the best range out there, so it still doesn't matter as much. I will still probably just say this is top tier. But once you add in more practice to it, you're definitely going to notice that this is going to generally not be as effective as something like the Overcharge on the Knight. I have used both of them, and let me tell you, I still can complete dungeons and still complete those faster with my Knight, despite that this character having way much more movement speed. And that's just because in the case of the Knight, it is more, I wouldn't say forgiving, it is more actually just you activate the ability and you can just control it more often, and you can just generally just use all of the abilities. Like for example, in the case of the Overcharge, you just press the ability and you have a movement speed buff, so you can actually just have all of the movement speed buff active, and just incredibly quickly, you know, being able to move, I wouldn't say just as fast, because obviously you're not going to be comparing to all of that, but you can clearly see that I'm more than capable of jumping around everywhere without losing a lot of movement or energy, and I do not have energy regeneration on both weapon and on the ring. I don't have energy regeneration at all. This is going to be something that you are definitely going to notice, and you definitely need to get used to with the spin to win of the Candy Barbarian. That is something that I would probably just say, get used to it for a little bit, and once you do get used to it, then just know how to just when to use the ability like crazy. And not only use the ability like crazy, also being able to use the ability like being able to control your energy, so you don't actually overuse the ability and have no energy upon reaching another dungeon or delve or whatever. And it is going to be even more apparent on something like delves, because on delves you will be jumping around quite a lot, especially if you don't want to get bumped into every single block, because delve is like, I like to describe delves as like a big stair, so you will be jumping quite a lot. So if you want to actually just properly just get towards the boss, and like I just mentioned, all of the problems beforehand, is going to be a thing that you're definitely going to notice. Another thing that I definitely did notice is going to be I will be comparing it a whole lot to the Spirit Squire. That's because, like I just mentioned, Spirit Squire multiple times. Spirit Squire is arguably the best dungeon grinding ability in the game, and if we are going to compare it to the best ability in the game, might as well just do a little bit of a comparison. I think regarding this ability is going to be that, obviously, as you can tell right over in here, it's not an instant cast ability. It takes like around half a second to activate it. So you actually have to time in your vanilla swirl if you want momentum building. So for example, if you take with this enemy right over here, you actually have to activate the ability from like this distance. You cannot activate it right next to the enemy. You have to activate it from like right around here. So you can actually just go ahead and activate it so you can get the movement speed buff. So you actually have to keep in a distance with this character, so you actually are more than capable of just killing the enemy and just being able to maintain the movement speed buff. That is definitely a flexibility that you're going to notice with something like Spirit Squire. Is that Spirit Squire, you can actually just activate the ability pretty much next to the enemy, and you're pretty much guaranteed of killing the enemy. In the case of this one, you have to time it in, because if you're, let's just say, if you're very close to the enemy and you're moving forward, you can just activate it and just miss, or you can just be very close to the enemy and just miss and not being able to activate. That's a thing that you're going to notice with this, and something like the Revenant as well. You can easily just miss with this ability, so you have to time it a little bit more, a little bit better for momentum building. So that's going to be a thing that you're definitely going to notice. Perfect example right there. And yeah, so definitely good timing. You need proper timing in order to actually just being able to get the pure momentum. But if you can manage to work it out and work out like the timing, and not only that, being able to maintain all of the energy, you have energy regeneration on everything, then yeah, essentially this character's movement speed is just absolutely bonkers, because of plus 50% movement speed buff on an instant cast ability that does not have any cooldown, does 6.5 times damage, heals you, and you know, it is by far among the better abilities out there. And if you can just pull it off, you are generally in for a really strong ability right there. And this is going to be extremely good for running in delves, because you are more than capable of just getting yourself into the delves and just being able to just keep spamming this ability right here. And if you do kill an enemy, that's a lot of movement speed buff. And if you do have Path Painter, that's more percentage increase. If you do have the Barsaw class, that's more percentage increase. This character can more than easily get well past 450 plus movement speed with Path Painter and Spin to Win. Like, this character becomes almost uncontrollable on how fast it is on delves if you do have Path Painter active. So yeah, Spin to Win is absolutely brilliant. I would highly recommend everyone to actually try it out. If you generally are interested in using the Candy Barbarian, use this ability. This is by far one of the most fun abilities in the entire game. It is absolutely ridiculous. It just makes this character just so fun to play around. You generally just turn into a goddamn Beyblade, and it is so strong. It is very strong. But yeah, that's going to be everything for me. Thank you for watching, thank you for sticking around as always. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the Candy Barbarian spin to win in the comment section down below. With all that being said, leave a like, we're on the road to 4K subscribers, so make sure to subscribe. And as always, take care and keep on hunting.